Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. All right, all you positive heads. On this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have Madelyn Moon here with me on the show. Madelyn is a feminine and masculine coach and host of the Mind Body Musings podcast, which I had the privilege of being on not so long ago. And not to mention, she regularly creates some damn funny content on social media. Hello, Madelyn. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. So lovely to be here.
It is lovely to have you. And I'm going to start off with my standard cliche opener. It is this. You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" What do you say? You got 10 floors to answer.
My passion is helping couples create art out of their deepest wounding so that they can have everlasting, fulfilling love.
Oh, wow. Man, is a synchronicity ripe for this one because there's definitely some trigger and wounding stuff coming up in my own relationship that maybe we'll get into here in a minute.
Yeah, I'd love to.
But creating art out of it, I just love the sound of that. Well, before we do, let's, if you would, share just a little bit of your backstory, whatever feels relevant to share for the listeners.
Yeah, so I have been coaching or teaching in some capacity for about 9 years now. And it all stemmed originally from being a health coach, actually a bodybuilding coach, because I was in the bodybuilding world. I was a bikini.
Really?
I was a bikini division model. I still have the files of the moon power cleanse with ridiculously low calories because I was just passing on my trauma around body image and how a woman should eat and look and all that to all the clients who wanted to look like me and work with me. And that stemmed from I didn't know it at the time, but all of the bodybuilding and the eating disorders that I later came out to talk about stemmed from a incredibly patriarchal, conservative Baptist household that was infused with so many different flavors of abuse. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it's not normal to grow up in a household without any kind of personal boundaries, and you don't have your own rights as a child. I didn't have rights. I didn't have a say. I didn't have privacy. And
Where did you grow up? Where were you living?
Could you make a guess? Where do you think?
Well, I'm from Virginia, and I grew up in a very conservative Christian household. So it's Baptist is like it's somewhere in the South, right?
Yeah, Texas.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah, and it's hard to describe sometimes. I'm still learning to put it to words because it's like the layers continue to unfold around the spiritual abuse that was going on. But also just, when you're raised by someone who's incredibly unwell, you don't know as a child that like this person that you see as God is not God. They're not, but your primal body, your animal body does start to learn that. Your animal body starts to think like my food is dependent on this person. My love is dependent on this person, whether I'm worthy. I think that's a story everyone can relate with. So I got really into bodybuilding and to food and health. And then I had all of these breakdowns of realizing that I'm very fortunate to realize it so early, being 21 at the time, 22, and being like, hey, I'm in my early 20s. This is a time to live. And I packed up my bag and I left where I lived in Texas in the middle of the night to move to the mountains where I didn't know a single soul. And I like caved. I went into a little cave in Colorado. I mean, it was the mountains, but still, I didn't know anybody. I adopted an animal, and it was just me and my animal for like a year, really going deep into finding why do I hate myself so much? Why do I really, really hate myself to the point where I don't want to have a body? I'm starving myself so much that I don't exist anymore. And that led me to some really beautiful answers, a lot of answers around questioning God, questioning spirituality, questioning what it means to be a woman. And I realized that I was trying to create a physical armor around my body, bodybuilding, physical armor, so that I felt my emotional body as little as possible. Because all
Mm,
my emotions were a reflection of what was not allowed or accepted as a child, which then fed into the cycle of wanting to be small again, wanting to not exist anymore. And all of that work, while it may not sound super connected, it's all relational work, which led me to do what I do today around feeling your feminine, expressive self, your constantly changing self, your whirlwind of chaos self, at the same time that you feel the part of you that is completely still, completely centered, grounded, your consciousness. And allowing these two pieces within you to dance in any given moment, both within yourself, but then also in relation to other in your partnership, and actually create um, really beautiful pieces of art. Because I can look at now my childhood of what my parents did to me and see how it's a beautiful reflection of the exact kind of man I always choose. It's like they both have the amazing qualities. The partners that I choose have the amazing qualities of my parents and the not so amazing.
hmm,
And that's what creates physical attraction. And then couples get so confused of, oh my God, everything started out so beautiful in the beginning. Why do we hate each other now? Or we're bored or
hmm,
it's just not going well. And some of the best matches have the most drama. This is what Richard Rudd, creator of the Gene Keys, says, that the deeper the drama, the deeper the dharma.
mm,
So when you have deep drama in a relationship, you also have the potential to live out your dharma when
mm,
you finally get to heal that thing, that wound that mommy and daddy created. So that's
hmm,
why I love this work so much, is helping people realize, like, no, that's good. You're in the you're in the meat of it, not abuse, especially not physically being abused. Of course not. These are
yeah.
situations that are outside of the context of what we're talking about. We're talking about triggers. We're talking about when we're
Triggers are your
feeling an
treasures.
emotion that we don't want to show. Yes, I love that. Exactly. So that's a, it's a little bit of a background story of like my arc so far and what I do, and here I
Cool.
am.
Yeah. It's a really necessary, I mean, what a needed niche, if you will.
Mm,
It's like, I think everyone listening can relate to, you know, romantic relationship being the most rich grounds for growth.
mm,
Whether
mhm,
you really realize, a lot of times we didn't consciously sign up for the things that we go through, of course, in
mhm,
these relationships, but it definitely does seem to bring up exactly, where are the soft spots, and
mhm,
that's something that's definitely been happening in my own relationship recently. Um, and a lot of times I think people just run from, a lot of times people will just like, oh, it's getting challenging or hairy, I'm out, I'm
mhm,
tapping out. And I think, you know, really self-examining why, jealousy, for example, that's like a huge one that we
mm,
all can relate to experiencing in relation. Well, I can't say everyone, but I would say most have
mhm,
had. Would you say that's fair to say? If you've been in a relationship, you've probably
mm,
experienced jealousy at some point
mm.
with that partner.
Yes, I've had such an interesting relationship with jealousy. I'll try to do the 411 lowdown, my relationship
Mm,
with jealousy. My mother is one of the most jealous women I've ever seen, and
mm,
not in a healthy way.
mm-hmm,
And I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I'm a Leo though, so it's in my blood.
What's your
Eh,
birthday?
August 19th.
My last partner was the 20th. I'm a
Oh,
Leo too.
I remember that. We talked about
Yeah,
the
we did talk
amazing
about this.
synchronous. Yeah, I
That's right.
remember. Yeah, so it's in my body, it's in my blood to be a possessive lover. And because I had that reflected in me, my mom's a Leo, 3 day apart birthday. I just kind of, I shut down that part of myself, which also means, and this is the thing that most people don't understand, it also means I shut off a really bright, magnetic, attractive part of myself. If we can just learn how to express these parts of ourselves that we really don't want to feel because we think they're ugly or they make us unlovable, and we learn how to do it fully in our being, our body, like, I mean, triple your jealousy, but do it in a way that is connected to the heart. It becomes one of the most beautiful qualities about you. And
Mm.
I didn't realize this, and so I would waver in between breaking up with people completely the minute I started to feel things, or especially if they started to feel things. If they got jealous because I couldn't handle it, it was such a bad thing, then I would run. I would leave, because it ties in again. The story around my family is they always want to control me. So jealousy was linked to control. Anytime
Mm-hmm.
someone feels jealous of me, they want to own me, control me,
Mm.
snuff out my fire, make me small. And so that's such a disempowered way to live, of like, anytime someone feels possessive over me, then I have to run, then they want to own me, then I can no longer be my bright self. And then
Mm-hmm.
I can never, honestly, what it means is, if you're not allowing yourself to feel jealousy, you're not allowing yourself to dip into the waters of loving someone so fully that you're terrified of them leaving. What a beautiful
Yeah.
kind of love. That really is
Mm.
beautiful if you let it be.
Mm.
And for anyone that's thinking, well, you should have appreciation of people wanting to spend time with your partner. Yes, exactly. That too. It's not one or the other. That's the whole thing around jealousy, that
Mm-hmm.
people think if you truly feel jealous and you allow yourself to feel it, that you can't also love your partner spending time with people. And you and your relationship, I imagine you've experienced that, of both feeling jealousy and also feeling joy that your
Mm-hmm.
partner is spending time with other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this idea of compersion,
Hmm.
right? Like, is, I guess, the polar opposite of jealousy, being actually excited about your partner spending time or connecting in any of the ways with someone else. And yeah, I'm personally in an open relationship, as we've touched on a little bit. And we've both been connecting with other people recently, whereas most of our relationship we haven't. There's been a little bit here and there. We've been together almost 2 years, and it's just brought up, so much. Even as of a few days ago, she was out, really late with someone that she had recently gotten intimate with, and just jealousy kind of coming up, and like, instead of like trying to control the situation, just like really like being there for it, for me, was like very empowering. Like, okay, this is the work. This is what I came for. And I think I experience it, quite a bit less than maybe a lot of people would, as far as my meter of jealousy. It's taken some time to get there, but it's still there. And I think it will always be there. I think it's when we allow it to, just sort of rule us in an unhealthy way, where we're just acting out and making demands. It's like, for me personally, I want for my partner what they want for themselves. That feels like the highest form of love. And that's one of the reason that there's many reasons that I feel an open relationship is in alignment with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of them. Is like, hey, I want to, I don't ever want to limit what your expression would be because you're afraid of my jealousy or hurt. Instead, how about that? Like we said, our triggers are our treasures. Maybe that's where my work is, and I'm gonna like be there for it. And she's been doing the same thing. And with her, it's been particularly intense because, I've been connecting with someone who I really like, and who's actually, I run a communal property, and the person is here. And so it's like an extra layer of challenge. And she's a rock star, for working through it. But it's definitely been a lot, a lot of this stuff for me lately. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really admire y'all's ability to go, or your desire to go headfirst into that and into the flame of
Yeah, it
jealousy,
is
because it
that.
takes
It is that.
time. It takes a lot of patience. Like, the thing that I think one of my favorite ideas of relationship is that it is the ultimate spiritual practice,
Mm-hmm.
not just something that you have. And where I come from, it's a thing you get. It's a thing you get, and then you move on. I
Mm-hmm.
This whole idea of it being a daily practice, a moment to moment practice, and it taking up a lot of time, and I mean that in a loving way, like you spending a lot of time, that's a revolutionary idea to me.
I'm
And
sorry, say that again. Spinning, what taking up a lot of time?
the idea that relationships are the deepest spiritual practice, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore you're in the practice all day, which
Mm-hmm.
might mean you have to pause a moment where you're having fun and you're like together having a good time, but then you notice the energy shift. If relationships are your deepest spiritual practice, you're willing to slow down in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
because you notice the energy just dipped a bit, and say, hey, what went on there? And be willing to have that conversation, or
Mm-hmm.
what I teach, be willing to play with it, be willing to create some art out of it. And I think both of them are equally as important. I have a lot of stage 2. Do you know about the stages? Have you talked
Mm,
about that?
no.
Because I'd love to
I'd
share
love to
that.
hear though. Yeah.
So, David Data has this beautiful concept, and he's the author of The Way of the Superior Man, for anyone who's
Yeah.
unfamiliar. He has this beautiful concept called the 3 stages, and this is my own interpretation of it. If anyone wants to listen to David's, he has a book on it. You can hear those practices. But the way that I interpret the 3 stages is that the first stage is more of the I wouldn't say it's quite closed hearted, but it's more reactive. The first stage is like, we're coming into this to get what we want. It's more selfish.
Mm-hmm.
I want a relationship. I want you. I want you to love me this way. And if you don't love me this way, I will withhold my love from you. That's the way it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
Or I'll leave. So you better love me the way that I want. And how many people live their life like that? Like, I
A
know I
lot.
did until 3 years ago, when I was first really starting to dive into this. It's very selfish. And when we don't get what we want, we get into triggers, we shut down, we withhold our love. We can also look at this on the sexual plane. So, sexually, there's like first stage fuck. You go into a bar, you just want to get laid, it's just sex. So, we have it on the emotional world, where selfish, and then we also have it on the physical plane with our sexuality, of just like first stage fuck. It's what all I want. And it can be fun sometimes. Sometimes you just want to fuck. You just want to get it on. And that's great, especially when you bring
It's like
consciousness
pizza.
to it. Like
It's like
pizza.
pizza. It's always pretty good.
Right. Totally. Well, hopefully. I don't know. I've had some
Hopefully. I
experiences
mean,
where I wouldn't be quite called
okay.
pizza. Maybe like pizza, like left on the side of a
Pizza
New York
bites.
City street. Yeah, pizza bites.
Pizza
Exactly.
bites.
Maybe even SpaghettiOs. I don't know.
Yeah, nothing like some watery ketchup.
Yeah, the best. Okay, so then we have second stage. And second stage is when we bring more consciousness to it and we unpack things. So, second stage on the emotional level would be using I feel statements. It's what we learn in talk therapy. Like, when you looked away from me at the dinner table during that special moment, I felt sad. I thought you
Mm-hmm.
were distracted by the pretty waitress. And I want you to know that when you hold eye contact with me, it makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful. And that's a place where most relationships need a lot of work. We always can use more second stage.
Mm.
And um and this is beautiful, but yet there's no there's no pounce factor in it. I love to call this the pounce factor. Like, when someone does something that just makes you want to like pounce on them, it's a moment where polarity is created. So we need those stage 2 moments to get clarity and to understand each other, to get on the same page, to move forward. And there's something that can be done in an even smaller amount of time, because when you're in stage 2, you're pretty much both in the masculine. You're both with direction, you're both getting somewhere, and you both have to be clear. And when you're in stage 3, you move out of the land of selfish, of what you want, and then you move into the land of God, of giving. So, stage 3 is a place where you do God's work. You open the moment by offering. I'll give a
Hmm.
very simple example, very simple. Um, I've used this one before and I really love it. For women who have a obsession with being the good girl and are constantly afraid that someone's telling them they're doing something wrong, they often lash out, like, well, I was doing it that way. They lash out or they break down and go inward of like, I thought I was doing it that way. Both of those methods are reactive. They're I wouldn't call them quite first stage, but they're wounded, and
Mm-hmm.
they might draw attention to them. Maybe it's a way they actually withhold love and they get attention so that they can continue to feed in the cycle of not being good enough. So for anyone who has that kind of wound of feeling like they're a big letdown or a fuck up or they're always going to have to be perfect, one of the ways you can play with that, which is a third stage way, is that if someone says, hey, that shopping cart doesn't go there, it goes up there where the rest of the shopping carts are, because you were just leaving the shopping cart in the parking lot and you got caught, and your
Hmm.
typical response would be to fuck that, I know that, react or be like embarrassed. You can grab the shopping cart, take it back and say, oh, I'm such a bad girl, and run away. Oh, I'm such a bad girl. And you're just giving, right? You're not making an invitation with that. You're not making an invitation for them to come over and talk to you and flirt with you. You're just being kind of silly, but you're opening the moment. You just laughed, I'm smiling. It's like we almost touched God in that moment, where we touched something
Mm-hmm.
bigger than ourselves. We touched humor. To me, humor is where God lives. And I just keep
Absolutely.
I keep going deeper and deeper into that belief, and that's what I love about third stage. You can make it sexy too, right? There's so many ways you can play with third stage. Um, and that's a lot of the work that I do, is how do we make this stuff hot so that it leads to
Mm-hmm.
polarity naturally, where you could get triggered, you all of a sudden have a erotic polarized moment, and your body isn't trying to shut down or go into fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm. Love that. That's amazing. Yeah, I agree fully that humor is like the thing that it just, I had this experience where some channeled messages were coming through to me a few weeks ago, and there's some pretty heavy, like somewhat intimidating messages that were coming through to me. And then somehow I can't remember exactly, and the idea of like, well, what if you bring humor into
Mm,
any of this, like into the moment of the
mm,
drama or the heaviness? It's like, oh, that just like that's the great reset.
mm.
It's like almost nothing can stand up to the power of humor, is the sort of message that I got from it.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And being willing to laugh at ourselves, or in the example you used, like instead of being reactive to someone calling you out on something, like making it fun, funny,
Mm,
owning it.
mhm.
That's sexy in itself, right?
Yeah.
When someone does that.
It's attractive. It
Yeah.
really is. And I said something recently on an Instagram story when I was talking about jealousy. Um, the thing about jealousy that I love is that it's being fully alive. When you're
Mm.
fully expressing it. When you're not fully expressing it, it can come out leaky, passive aggressive, and very punishing to your
Mm-hmm.
partner. That doesn't feel good. That's not going to inspire them to take you in deeper. But
Mm-hmm.
when you let it fill up your whole body, and you stay with the energy of it and you get dark with it, and you tell your partner that you want to rip up that woman who's staring at him to shreds, drink her blood, and then make him watch. That's kind of attractive. It's like fucked
It's
up,
a
but
little
it's
hot.
like, and it's also between you and your lover. It's like this private moment where you're talking about
Mhm.
doing dark things,
Yeah.
and it's a way
Mhm.
you can express, like, obviously you don't want to really go kill this human being,
Mm-hmm.
but the way that you can diffuse the tension of the jealousy is by stepping into it with your animal body. What would your animal body do
Mm-hmm.
if it could? If you didn't have to remember about society and what's right and wrong. If your animal body just saw another animal making a move on your animal, probably would rip that animal to shreds. So if you would just play with it, pretend with it, it makes it, not that this is all about being attractive. I'm just saying that it's magnetizing. It's radiant, actually. And that's
Yeah.
what, to me, radiance is about being fully alive, and being fully alive leads to being attraction, creating
Mm.
attraction with life, creating intimacy
Mm.
with life.
I kind of got goosebumps when you were talking about all that, because it's sort of a synchronistic thing that seems to be happening for me in this moment. So let's call it my primary partner, for almost 2 years, and then my new love interest. The primary partner has gotten all these things lately, like has a bunch of like a shirt with a tiger on it, like a few different tiger related things. And the love interest who yesterday was talking and was like, gosh, she meditates a few hours every day. And she's like, all of a sudden I had these crazy visions of like a tiger being, it just like popped into my awareness, a tiger hung by its feet being like just butchered. And she's like, and she's like so pure and good. And like, it's like, where did that come from? This dark image. And I instantly thought of, my primary partner, like, oh, wow, she's had some tiger stuff. She's got, it's like, I wonder if there's some relation here. And then as you talk about that, and the primary partner is just like really intense. There's a lot of intensity and power there, and her dealing with the triggers around this new person in the picture. And even though they're friends and close and have connected, and so it just almost like I want to play this whole segment for her, because it's like it's for them both, maybe, because it's it seems to be related.
That's fun that they're friends. Maybe they should have a sacred cat fight, like a 30-minute thing where they set the room up and they just play as two tigers. And they have boundaries you can set: no face touching.
Can I watch?
Light hair pulling.
I'm in. I'm sold. Let's see if I can. So if you come to the pool party, the solstice celebration this weekend, we'll team up and try and convince them.
Oh, amazing!
Because you'll meet them both.
Amazing! I would love that. I'll be the referee. I'll be I'll be like the arena. We'll create a sacred arena.
Well, that's so good. Well, since I just threw it out there, if anyone happens to hear this before Saturday that is in the LA area, we're doing a solstice celebration at the Mystic Manor, and a pool party and DJs and Kundalini yoga and vegan delights and, all the things. So you can reach out to me and just message me on social media or whatever, and or my email, brandon@positivehead.com, and I can send you guys links or whatever if you want to come, if there's still availability by the time you hear this. So just thought I'd throw that out. Before we continue on with today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to share an exciting new development in my world that can benefit those of you who are itching to get out there and travel as we begin to emerge from the COVID chrysalis. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, at some point you've most likely heard me talk about my personal hero's journey tale regarding the Inc. fastest growing private travel company I co-founded that imploded back in 2015. Well, out of the ashes of that challenging lesson, my brother and I started a new travel company called Hello Vacay. And an exciting new chapter has just unfolded in my travel company saga, as Hello Vacay recently secured a huge partnership with the world's largest online travel agency, Priceline. Essentially, due to our past success working with them all those years ago, they have agreed to give us access to their deeply discounted private wholesale booking rates. Our new site at hellovacay.com is sort of like the Costco for hotel and alternate accommodations, because it allows anyone to get access to these wholesale rates, which are up to 50% off the normal booking rates you'll find on all the other major online travel sites. The only caveat is that they won't let us display these rates publicly because they're so much lower than even what you would see at Priceline.com. So to offer them, they insisted that we have a paid membership for people to get access to these much lower rates. However, since I love you all for listening to me moan about this story for all these years, we're setting you up with 50% off the monthly or annual membership fees when you use the code POSITIVEHEAD. So with the code, you'll get the first month free just to check it out and see what it's all about. And then it's like $4 a month to get access to savings that can easily add up to thousands of dollars a year if you travel with any regularity. I personally saved over $200 in one weekend when I went to Seattle not too long ago. So once again, if you plan to travel at all in the future, be sure to check out hellovacay.com. That's HELLOVACAY.com. Use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for a free month trial at checkout. And then after that month, the PHEAD 50% discount will kick in. And as you may guess, I would say next, journey well, everyone. Cool. Well, where to go from here? So, okay. In all your exploration in this very, have you ever heard, well, let me throw this out real quick. My friend, he used to be on this podcast regularly. He's so good with plays on words. And he always refers to, he says, well, are you in a relationship or an elationship?
Relationship. Relationship. That's great. That's quirky.
Good?
I'm in a relationship for sure.
Relationship.
But man, they're so closely connected. It's not like I think that all couples have relationship moments, and that's the more you allow yourself to go into the relationship, the more relations on the other side, because it shows you what's possible. Like,
That's right.
my God, I can have this, I can show this person this much of my anger and they stay. And I stay. And I'll share the thing that's, I wish, if I could give one nugget to every single human being. I was talking about this yesterday because I'm realizing how important it is to me in relationship. All relationships before didn't have this. And now I have it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the secret. This is the secret to relationships to me. It's when your partner is feeling something that they're scared to express, or that is, let's just say, anything to do with anger, jealousy, sadness, and it's not fully directed at you. Like, it's not sharply coming into you did this. This would be an impossible ask if it was, shooting right into you for you to do this. But if someone is ever, my father hurt my feelings, and they're just expressing that, or this fucking driver in front of me doesn't know how to drive, and they're just like, "Rah!" For you as the partner to say, oh, I love when you get bitchy. I love when you get bratty. I love when you're sad. I love when you're angry. I love when you're sad.
I like that.
That is the most nourishing thing I've ever experienced in a relationship. So every podcast I'm ever on now, I want to just drop this in for everyone to
that's
hear.
Good.
Just start to train yourself when you see your partner do anything that's like, it's not to fake it though. Can you find the part in you that really does love when they're a brat?
Right.
Because the more that they feel this part is welcome and loved, the more expressive they'll start to become with it and more artful. And if that's your goal for you and your partner both to create art, letting them know that this part of them is yummy, is sexy, is erotic, if you want to pounce on this part of them, they'll maybe give you this look like, okay, I guess I'll do more of this. And it'll make it fun to express this part instead of them just like humdrum complaining. They'll start to create more art with this. It's really magic.
I love that. Yeah, it's interesting too, because if, using my current situation again, the dynamic, my primary partner will then have, sort of a little bit of an outburst, of like insecurity or jealousy or something will come up, and then it turns into like self-deprecation, like, damn it, I fucked up. I screwed up. And now you like me less. And now and it's like, there is that part. And then it turns into the spiral of like, beating yourself up and I failed the test and, oh God, but there is that part of us that like likes to see our partner is jealous or whatever. So like you just said, just like tapping into that part and making it, and sort of being there for them and helping them to find their way out of the negative spiral.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had moments like that where I'm crying and I'm looking at my partner and I'm saying, "You love me less, you love me less." And then they just say, I love what you're doing right now. I love this. I love this. I love you. Keep going. What else do I
Yeah,
not love you
more.
for? And I'm just like, you don't love me for this and this. And then it's just like I'm met with so much love from that I start to even think to myself, like, oh, this part of me that feels unlovable, I love her because they're reflecting to me their love, his love for that part of me.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Beautiful. I love that. How long have you been in your relationship? Curious. Your current relationship.
Say, probably like, I don't want to say. I don't really know. I've
Some
known them.
amount of time.
Yeah, some amount of time. I've known them for a while. Some amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't
Cool.
really say when.
Fair enough. You can keep it. You can keep it your little secret. Secrets. You're funny. So let's talk. What else would be the most? I feel like you've got so much good insight and wisdom to share. What do you think is, the most? Yeah, would be the best use of our time together to like delve into. I know, you talk about purity culture, and then of course there's this whole thing of intimacy and how to create. That's something that's been very relevant for me recently, is like sort of learning or focusing my attention more on making sexual experiences less just physical and more like intimacy, more of like, what we, like tantric style, like how do we take this to another level? And so that's something that's, those are just a couple things that I'll throw out there and see which one you bite on.
Yeah, we could talk about polarity. So polarity, have you talked about this on the podcast before? Polarity.
Have I talked about polarity? I mean, I don't know if in the context that you're about to.
Okay.
Probably not.
Yeah, so polarity is, in the context that I'm talking about, when we create a sexualized moment using our body. And third stage is a great example. What I was just talking about of creating polarity, creating a moment of attraction by using your body. But more specifically, in what I teach, it's two people embodying opposite poles. So one person embodying the masculine pole, which will normally polarize the moment, polarize the other person to be more in the feminine. And I work with a lot of women who are very capable, building businesses, getting shit done, and they're really, really sad in their dating life because they're probably using the same tools that helped them succeed in business to try to be in relationship, which is just leading them to resent men, right? Because they're actually challenging men with their masculine. So then it's two masculine people butting heads. And a lot of times it is going to be in that scenario the man who may leave. I mean, she may leave too. I'm not saying she won't, but he may leave because he's not looking for a challenge. That's not his relationship style. It's like two people trying to take control. Or he is going to, by default, move into the feminine pole because he was raised in this scenario. He was raised by a single mother, and his mother always told him that he would never amount to anything, or he'll never be maybe her husband, his dad was terrible, and all men are terrible. So he grows up to want to be very pleasing to all women. He finds a woman who is in the masculine already, running the show. He, by default, moves into the feminine. Yes, I'll do whatever you want. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Whatever you want, baby. You want to go out to eat? Where do you want to go out to eat? Her heart is desperate to be taken to a place she cannot take herself. She's tired of having her romantic life be like her business life, but she has no idea how to actually let her body receive. So she'll keep going on, running the show and resenting him for it. And he'll keep
Mm.
letting her run the show and resenting her for it. So then we end
Mm.
up in this relationship where the women are in the masculine, the men are in the feminine, and they're resenting each other simply because they're not doing their own personal practice to switch the poles. And I'm talking
Mm.
very hetero here of, couples who want
Yep.
to be, the woman wants to be in the feminine, the man wants to be in masculine. I'm definitely not saying that you have to be in those roles. And also for
Sure.
same-sex couples, it's the same thing that applies. There's just more agility. Normally, like still, polarity is science. It's just the way of life. When you have one side of the magnet, you're going to have the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever one person is being more of the consciousness of in the observer, the other person's naturally going to be talking more. Like right now, you're listening to me, you're absorbing, you're sitting still in your consciousness. I'm the feminine. I'm blah, 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 this and that, and let's talk about
Hmm.
this, and using my hands, and then we might switch. And so the same thing, even if you're in the same sex relationships, it also applies. You just have to have more agility around what does the moment need. So going back to what we were talking about when we want to create polarity, whether you're a woman who wants to create polarity with a man or a woman with a woman, what is the flavor of your embodiment that you can bring that will lead to that moment? Is it being an expression of love, or is it, which is the feminine, or is it being an expression of consciousness, which is the masculine? And you can use your physical body to deepen either one of those poles. So, for example, if I want to create a polarized moment, I want to start to bring energy through my body because that's what the feminine does. The feminine brings energy. So she might bring a texture of the sacred slut, or she might dress in a certain way that opens the room because it's so bright or it's so dark. She might make a certain sound. She might bring just some life, like just some life to the moment where it wasn't there before. Try something new, raise the voice or deepen the voice, like just bringing energy instead of keeping the poker face. Because if you have your
Mm-hmm.
poker face on because you don't want to reveal that something is pleasurable, you're in the masculine. You're doing the
Mm.
thing that you probably learned how to do from being a child who didn't feel safe,
Hmm.
right? And that's not polarizing. What a polarized relationship wants is two opposites, not two of the same. And so, for a man, if he wants to be bringing in, or in a same sex relationship, again, if we're talking about two men or if we're talking about two women, and that person wants to create a sexualized moment and they think the other person should be in their energy and their love light and expression, and they themselves want to be in the masculine, they deepen the moment. So then they stop moving all around and they stop being, what should we do? Where should we eat? Blah, 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 blah. And they assume the role of direction. Baby, tonight we're going to eat at Elefante, and I'm going to order
Hmm.
us our table in advance. I just want you to be ready by 7 p.m. and please wear that red dress that I love.
Hmm.
Ooh, talk about like polarity in that moment of that kind of direction, that clarity. Whoever is the person receiving that immediately, and I'm going to make this sound really simple, but it's what resonates with me. That person receiving that no longer has to use their fucking brain. And do you know what a gift that is to not have to use your brain
Mm-hmm.
and just to
Mm-hmm.
receive? I'm going to own that because I get people all the time. They're like, this is 1960s. Like, we want to use our brain. Sometimes I can almost guarantee you don't. You're tired,
Guaranteed.
you've worked
Guaranteed.
hard, and if you would just let your ego get the gift of letting go, you can see how beautiful it is to also, not instead of, to also have access to the part of you that gets to be a 1960s devotional housewife who gets to wear the pretty dress and be taken out to dinner and just be in your pleasure for that
Mm.
night. And then tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., you can wake up, you can meditate, you can go into work, you can do the thing that you love to do. But what if we started to live a lifestyle where we can all switch? Where
Mm-hmm.
there's so moments I'm the one that's direction and clarity. I'm ordering takeout. I'm drawing my partner a bath. I'm telling him what we're doing that evening because I see he needs to be in the feels. So it's not about this is now your role. You are a woman. You need to be in your pleasure all the time and you need to reveal it so he can see it. It's not about that. It's about opening yourself, opening the moment, arriving as a gift, and allowing yourself to actually find these moments of polarization to be spicy and enjoy the sex that comes from it. And I don't just mean sex using your genitals, I mean sex through your heart, like actually
Mm-hmm.
experience that you can have sex in a polarized moment without even touching each other. It's exquisite, it's rich, but we can't get there unless we're not willing to live our own practice, to
Mm.
stop being the poker face, to actually reveal a little bit of a smile when something feels good, to let your partner lead you and lead you poorly, because he's not
Mm.
going to lead you as perfectly as you could lead yourself. You're going to tell yourself that, women. I know it. You're going to say, "Yeah, I can
Mm.
let him pick where we're going to eat tonight, but he's not going to do it as fast enough as I want, or not make the reservation as perfectly as I can." Part of the name of the game of polarity is allowing your partner to not do it as perfectly as you would do it, and to celebrate them
Mm.
doing it. Period. So
Mm. I love that.
I gave you a lot there. That was like it
Yeah.
was like four different kinds of modules put into one thing.
I love that. I've told this before on the podcast. It's really funny to see. Um, I was at a date with Destiny, Tony Robbins, years ago in Australia, and this he was talking a lot about masculine and feminine and how we all have both, and how important it is to learn when to tap into what, um, and there's this he always has at his I've only been to one of his events like this, but it's over like 5 days. And he would have people stand up and really interact with certain people at
Mm.
certain times throughout the week. And he had this guy and he was like super macho, super in his masculine, and he was having him interact with people, and he was, being like you'd expect, and different people. And then all of a sudden he had this very feminine woman who's really in her feminine stand up and interact with him. And his whole demeanor
Mm.
changed. This super macho
Mm.
guy, kind of like, just like everything changed. And Tony pointed it
Mm.
out. He goes, "Now, do you notice the difference of how, like, literally that feminine energy, which a lot of times we attribute to as like weak or less than, and that's why I think so many women in our society have like overdone their masculine because they, in response to the culture and world that we live in." And it's like, meanwhile, it was like he pointed this out, like, look at how powerful it actually
Yeah.
truly is.
Mm-hmm.
It brings this big dude to his
Mm-hmm.
knees, in a sense. So just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Totally, 100%. I mean, we could go into ancient history there. That's why it was patriarchy is here to begin with. It's because it is so powerful and mesmerizing, especially a woman who's really embodied in her body. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel this all the time when I do any kind of intimacy practices with women. I get so mesmerized. I'm just like, your hands are so tiny. Like, I get
Yeah.
mesmerized by the
Yeah.
actual body because I'm so used to like big man bodies that when I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and when I'm holding the hand of a woman, I'm just like, you are so beautiful. And like,
Oh.
I get so mesmerized by women. Um, and men too, they do a different thing to me and my body, but like women, so yeah, that's the thing. When it comes down to it, and there's a lot that goes into this. We live in a time of chronic disapproval of men. I'm just going to own that too. We live in a time
Mm.
of chronic disapproval. Women are so fed up that they've gone past the point of compassion. Oh, I say women, but I mean, just as a society, our,
Generally speaking.
yeah, our uh threshold, I think, or we're always on women are typically on the lookout for how they can do things better because in their past they had to do things by themselves, or they've been let down or cheated on or raped or abused, or let's look at the last 10,000 years, killed, sold, raped, quartered, stoned, witch burning. Like, the pain body in women is so massive that now here we are of tens of thousands of repressed pain, years of repressed pain, and now it's coming out to these modern day men who are really trying to do their best, but um, because they've been beaten down by our disapproval, there's a little bit of hopelessness or there's a lack of inspiration in men. So we each have to do our own work. The more women allow themselves to be in their pleasure again. Forget about men. Just forget about men for a second. Just allow themselves to be in their physical body, to take back their body. Realize that their body is theirs. Take pleasure in having a body. It's nobody else's. So there's a lot of foundational work that needs to be done there of women coming back to feel that they own their own body, especially if they have felt that it has been taken by other. Really healing that part of themselves. That's step one. And then beginning to reveal that through their body. Like, oh, when I'm eating chocolate, it tastes good. I can make a sound. When I'm sad, I can cry and let that be seen. When I'm angry, I can get really expressive. And starting to use this body that they own, the more they begin to use it, the more that men start to naturally, that macho guy would, even though he was collapsing in that moment, if she's expressing herself with love, he probably would come rise back up and meet her in the occasion. Would imagine normally that's the way it happens, but um, we do have a lot of men that were raised by single mothers too, floating amongst us, who have a deep desire to be good to the feminine, and so they're confusing being good to the feminine with always being nice to the feminine and catering to the feminine, and that's not what we want. And so then for the men, it's starting to find their inner leadership with women, with the women that inspire them. And we meet each other in this beautiful space of both taking ownership of our own feminine and masculine, and we learn when we want a polarized moment, how can we express through our body as feminine beings in a way that will open the room, and masculine beings, how can we deepen the moment in a way that will take her to a place she can't take herself, take her into the foresight, take her into the depths, take her into the moment when she's here, there, and everywhere because she's in her pleasure. How do you take her deeper? Yeah.
What a dance.
It is.
So such an interesting thing to dissect in this way, you know. It's like it's like a never-ending hole of, you know, potential.
It is. It is. I will be studying this till I die. Most definitely.
I believe you. Wow. Well, we have a few minutes still here, and as we you know, wind down, I mean, one thing that I'd like to ask you about that I know a lot of listeners, you know, see all the cool things that you're doing in the world. You know, we both do have podcasts. You know, you're working with in shifting so many people's lives with this work. And for those out there who don't have or haven't found the confidence to really go after their own dreams, or, you know, you talk about creating art from, you know, your triggers, and like that's like mind blowing to them. You know, what piece of advice would you give to them to, you know, get on and really go after their dreams?
Well, I like to remember mortality. That's what I always come back to. It's not, you know, here's my hot tip of getting started. But I anchor back into mortality, of how short this all is, how brief this all is. And normally the only thing that people are worried about is looking stupid or dying, both of which are guaranteed. They're both guaranteed.
Get used to it.
Get used to it. And so your nervous system just literally needs to be trained. It needs to be trained to practice dying. It needs to be trained to look stupid. So if you just continue to do things that lead you to look stupid, your nervous system will start to say, oh, it's not so bad. I'm still alive. I'm still here. And so by being a fool and doing something that once you normally would never do in a heated argument, but all of a sudden you do something and then maybe it fell flat on its face. You tried to open the moment. It didn't really work. You took a risk. It actually closed the moment more and you looked silly. Let your body feel that, because once your body feels that, oh, at least I tried and I am embarrassed and I'm still alive, it becomes easier and easier, and your agility with creating art becomes like second nature. Doesn't always mean it'll be good, but at least
Mm-hmm.
you'll start to instinctively, and it's the same thing for dreams. Like you're afraid of what your mom's best friend will think of you when you post your Instagram story about being a coach, and they may think you're stupid for being a coach. I hear that one all the time. Of what will my friends from high school think if they see me posting about my new podcast on my Instagram? What will they think? Who cares? Who knows? Like, it does not fucking matter. So just do it. Like, that's the kind of stuff where I'm just like, do it. Feel the shock of embarrassment of knowing that Amy blah blah saw your story, and it'll get easier and easier. And
Yeah.
you can always use the block button. If people,
Yep.
if like watching eyes who you don't really know are keeping you from living out your dreams, you can always curate your special little social media space so that it's nice and safe. I have so many people blocked that I don't want
Yeah.
seeing my shit. So what do you need to do to meet yourself in that space of feeling stupid so that it feels less stupid?
Right. Yeah. I fully agree with what you're saying. It's like, I always say, if it scares you and it excites you, it's probably for you. And that the most important piece of stepping into these things is you're acclimating your nervous system, just like you said. When you first turned on the mic to do your very first podcast, your nervous system was probably shot. Now you can do it with your, hardly thinking about it. I hardly prepare for any, it's just so in the flow for the most part. And that comes from just exposure and training your nervous system, right?
100%. Yeah.
And what's the number one question, they hear on people's deathbed, or when they ask or answer rather, what would you have done differently? Oh, I wish I'd taken more time to enjoy. I wish I'd gone after what I really wanted, a little harder.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to let fear put us on the sidelines of our own life.
It is. Yeah, definitely. Great question.
Yeah. Good answer.
Thank you.
Well, this has been amazing. You're amazing, Madelyn. What is the best way for people that want to connect with you and continue to follow you? And what's the best way for that?
So the best free way is on my Instagram at Madelyn Moon, Madelyn Moon. I post daily videos. They're comedic, but they're about relationships. And I have the podcast Mind Body Musings, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. My website's maddiemoon.com. And if anyone's really interested in learning more about how to create art out of your triggers, I've coined something called artistic intimacy. And so artistic intimacy is going to be a series, but as of right now, I have one workshop. It's just $47. It's 2 hours long. It's a great masterclass type of call that's going to teach you all about the how to quote safely go through the 3 stages in your relationship. Tons of examples and some pitfalls of what to look out for when you're creating art. So if anyone wants to get that workshop, it's maddiemoon.com/artistic. And last but not least, I have a advanced practice group that I am currently enrolling. We don't start till October, but there is 9 calls for this practice group. It's basically group coaching. There's 9 calls and there's 1 in-person immersion in New York City. So this is for someone who doesn't have to have tons of experience with polarity and feminine masculine, but someone who feels really comfortable jumping in. And that's called creativity in love. And if anyone is interested in that, there's links to that to apply and read more about it in my Instagram bio. And that's all.
Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I do have one final question for you.
Yes.
And it is this. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life, according to Madelyn Moon?
The meaning of life is to open each other, open ourselves, open the moment with love, creativity, and what's the last one? Love, creativity, and divinity.
I love it. I'm in. Thank you for doing so today, helping to open each and every one of us. You are so inspiring and amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in as well. You are inspiring and amazing as well. And until next time, journey well. Also, before we sign off, I wanted to remind you to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can find the book and unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.